Welcome to the Krista Escamilla Show.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Krista Escamilla Show. We are so happy to be spending time with you today. So thank you for choosing us in your AirPods or in your car, wherever you are listening to us, or in your home or at work, in your office. We appreciate you choosing the Krista Escamilla Show. We have an amazing guest with us today, a familiar face. But first, before I introduce him to you, I do want to thank our sponsors. We appreciate our sponsors for letting us share the wonderful West Texas stories. And so we are appreciative of the Omni Midland Hotel, of Rig ID Workwear, of Kevin Foreman of Foreman Financial, also ThinFR, Midland Cap Company, and the Preserve at Midland. Thank you so much for believing in our show and believing in the people of West Texas, because that's what our show is all about, is the people of West Texas. So thank you. We want to reintroduce a guest. I say reintroduce because he is a familiar face to some of you who watched episode 88 of the Krista Escamilla Show, Mr. Grant Billingsley. Grant, thank you so much for coming back today.
Thanks for inviting me, I think.
I tried to get you on for years and years and years, and then I finally got him on one day. And look, now I've got him on twice within a year and a half's time. This is amazing. So thank you for coming back on the show.
Certainly.
So today, Grant is a longtime Midlander. He has a bio a mile long, and like I said, for his history, go watch the episode 88, because we got to talk about some amazing projects he was a part of, his history, and how him and Fran came to West Texas. And we got to really hear his heart for our community. Today, he's going to share some knowledge. We are dropping knowledge today on the history of Midland. And I say that, and he's going to go, don't call me a historian, right? No. But today we are talking some local history, because you love West Texas so much and know it well.
I've been here a long time, and having been here and been involved with the community a lot of times, I've seen a lot of things happen and watched how they unfolded, and some of that is interesting now as we move into a new phase of growth.
Well, let's start back to the year you got here, 1975?
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So 1975, I'm sure, like everyone that comes to this area, were you coming for a job?
I did.
Okay.
I came to work for the Chamber of Commerce, Midland Chamber of Commerce. I was public relations director, and I was 22, and moved here from Tulsa after graduating from the University of Oklahoma. And it was busy. It was busy then. It seemed to me like the population was about 65,000.
Okay.
The chamber was located in a building on Colorado Street downtown, between Illinois and Texas Street on the west side. It had formerly been the building where the chamber was located at that time had formerly been the federal courthouse.
Okay.
And but the courthouse had already relocated to where it is currently, over on Wall Street, just past Main. So that's what I did when I came here.
And then through the years, of course, you had several different amazing titles, but one that I want to kind of pinpoint in on is you were with the Scarborough Foundation for a long time, because that's where I first probably interviewed you and realized, oh my goodness, well, probably at the chamber before that, but I thought, he knows his stuff about Midland. So today, let's go back in time and just kind of talk about the changes. For those of you that are new to Midland, maybe you've just moved here to West Texas. We have a young generation, as you know, here, Grant. And we want to just give them a little background on all the great things that make it what it is today, because you've seen a lot of growth since 75. I've seen a lot of growth since 1998, but I can't imagine this if you go back even further, right?
Well, when I arrived here in 75, it was in August of 75, and Midland College had already moved to its current location, which was the new location, and Midland College opened with what was then the Library and Learning Resource Center, which is the big building in the center of the campus. And that was the building. That was Midland College, and it just opened. So it was, I want to say it opened in like 73 or 74, but I wasn't here then.
You said it moved from a previous location?
It was in a building somewhere downtown. It operated downtown in an office building that no longer exists, is my recollection, but that was before my time. But when I got here, and with the chamber, the first project that was fun, big project that I got to work on was the opening of the Permian Basin Petroleum Museum, Library, and Hall of Fame. at the location where it is now, out on Interstate 20. And it was September of 1975, and President Gerald Ford came to open the museum.
Wow.
And it was a very big deal. And so that's when the Petroleum Museum opened, and so they're celebrating their 50th year.
I did not know that. So 75. Who was instrumental in that? Because as you know, all great things that you've been a part of, like the Wagner Noel. I mean, it takes a group of people, right, that are supporting it. And do you remember at that time who was the big mover and shaker to get that going?
I don't know. I remember some of the individuals. They were independents. They were gentlemen around town who had been in the oil and gas business, but the real impetus for it came from Abel Hanger Foundation.
Okay.
And Mr. Abel had a real vision for what preserving the history could be. Has a wonderful art collection that you still can see when you go to the museum. But Abel Hanger had received the property from Mr. Abel, and they provided it for that purpose. And so that was the beginning. That was the first project that I recall. But Midland College was still pretty new at that time. We're going to talk a little bit about the fact that at this point the Hotel Scarborough had already been demolished by the time I got here. It had been knocked down, and the Midland Hilton was being built, where currently the Wyndham is located, and so we can talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to encourage anyone that has not been to the Petroleum Museum, especially since they're celebrating 50 years, go see it. I mean, I remember Al and I went out one day. We just had fun. We went and just walked around. And we've lived here many, many years, but we thought we really haven't spent time there as an adult. Maybe we took the kids when they were little, those things. But to really read it and to experience it, it is a gem.
It is.
It is. Well, that's so neat. That was the first project that you worked on. You mentioned the hotels, and I think hotels are, of course, a hot topic in a boom town, right? At any time, you're going, well, where are we going to put people when they come to visit here? So let's talk about the history of it, because I know you have a vast knowledge of it through the years. Again, we're not calling you a historian, even though I would call you a historian. but I think your knowledge of it really is amazing, because it goes back to, is it Clarence Scarborough?
Clarence Scarborough. He wasn't Clarence Scarborough Sr. at the time, but he was Clarence Scarborough, and his son, Clarence Scarborough Jr., passed away in 2014, and he was the one who created the Scarborough Foundation, and their family has just been involved in so much in the community. And Clarence Scarborough, from back in the 20s, early, was such an entrepreneur and created so many things in Midland, and the hotel was a part of it, along with the bank, and helped start the Chamber of Commerce and helped with the hospital and the airport and a variety of things. But this isn't about Clarence.
Right, no, not about him, but it is. We want to talk about the hotels, because the hotels were something that, if you think about that time, 1800s, 1900s, I mean, it's hard for a lot of us to even put ourselves in that space, right? But there was not much here.
No.
So
starting off, Midland began to develop and sort of was a center for commerce back in the 1880s, early 1880s, maybe 1870s. But it wasn't really until 1881 when the Texas and Pacific Railroad was being built from Fort Worth to El Paso. And I remember reading somewhere in one of these books that in 1881 is when they pushed a car off onto a siding, and that became the town Midway.
Okay.
And it was the station, as it was developed, was right there. My recollection was it was right there at the intersection of Main and what is now Front Street. Okay. Or used to be Highway 80.
Not very far from here.
No, it's not very far from here, and that's where the train station ultimately was built. But that's where the car was pushed aside, and that became Midway. But come to find out, there already was a Midway, Texas, and so so it wasn't known as Midway very long until they renamed the community Midland, and so that was a creation of things, and it was. and it was really just the midpoint of that construction from Fort Worth to El Paso. That's how it got its name. That's why we were here. It was still a ranching center. It became a transportation center because of the railroad. The highway ultimately, Highway 80 was built. Highway 80 was, I don't know, what do they call it? Highway of the Americas or whatever. It went from coast to coast. And so they built that along the right of way. But anyway, that's where the town sort of grew up. And downtown Main Street was exactly that. It was a main street. And so came in and eventually oil got discovered and people started coming and there was a need for an office building, there were a need for a hotel. And what's one thing that if people want to take the time to look back, I think his name is T.S. Hogan, built the Hogan Building, which is now known as the Petroleum Building. It was the Shell Building. When I moved here in 1975, it was known as the Shell Building. It had big, tall, stand-up letters, kind of like the Hollywood sign, up on top of the building. It said Shell. And it was built in 1927. I think it constructed in 1927, which was a critical year. A lot of things took place in 27. For years, and Mr. Hogan envisioned it being an office building for people who wanted to do business, but there wasn't enough business, and so the story is that they stored hay in it for a period of time because there was no business to
That's funny.
to go in. And
was Hogan a big rancher at that time?
I don't know. I don't know the
businessman.
I don't know the history, but I'm thinking it's the same Hogan that's named for Hogan Park.
That's what I was going to ask you.
And so I'm guessing that that's the case. And so he had an office building, and in 27, there was already a hotel. Do you want to go back this far?
Yeah.
Before that? Okay. So,
absolutely. I don't know anything.
1881. Okay. 1881 is when they pushed the car off to a siding, and that was kind of where downtown was going to be. That was going to be the center of town.
Okay.
In 1890, so that's 9 years later, a hotel was built called the Lana. The Lana Hotel was built, and the way it's described is a 2-story frame building. Most of the rooms, I think, were on the second floor. In fact, at the time, there were hospital rooms on the second floor. But
oh, wow.
the Lana was located at the corner of what is now Illinois Street and Main Street. It would be, I'd call it catty-cornered from what is now First United Methodist Church. I've got my bearings right. And the Lana was in business for a long time, and it was, this is still 1800s,
right.
And so it was not what you expect right now, but it served the community for a long time, and
I'm picturing horses in the streets.
Right.
Right?
No paving.
No pavement. No street. No, barely any
that's
streets.
Right, barely any street.
Right.
And it was there, and it burned down. The Lano burned down in 1909. So it was in place for 18 years, nearly 20 years. It was in place as a hotel, and it was in place, and it could house people that got off the railroad, got off the train, and wanted to do that. Well, when oil was discovered, more and more people needed to come here, and Mr. Hogan had already had envisioned a place for business and commerce, so he said, we're going to have an office space for him. Clarence Scarber said, we need a new hotel. Now, Mr. Scarber, like I said, was an entrepreneur. He started a bank, did so many things. He was an investor in the Lano. And I read now, he was an investor in the Lano, and they rebuilt it, but he said, we need a nicer hotel. And so he built, he's a rancher. He didn't know anything about hotels, but he built the Hotel Scarber. And he built Hotel Scarber on Wall Street. At the current site, today as we're sitting here, it's occupied by the Wyndham, formerly Doubletree, before that Midland Hilton, before that Hotel Scarber.
Wow.
So that it opened in 28. Yeah, I think he announced it in 27 and opened in 28. And remember, that was the year before the crash.
Right.
The stock market crash.
The Great Depression?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Whew, got one right.
So here we've got an office building and we've got a new hotel, and Mr. Scarber built it out of cash. And the plan was as people come here to explore for this oil that's been found here, they can take the train here. They can get off. There's an office for them to go to work in. There's a hotel for them, a nice hotel for them to go stay in. And the Scarber opened in that year, and let's call it opening in 28, with 150 rooms, right there on the corner of what is Lorraine and Wall Street. And I think Mr. Scarber knew right pretty soon that it was not big enough, and because eventually the Hotel Scarber grew to 350 rooms. So it was a big hotel, and it stretched from Wall Street all the way back to Missouri Street, like the current Wyndham, two-tower Wyndham does. And so that was the beginning, and the Hotel Scarborough had a great reputation, a big place where deal makers and ranchers and people did business.
That's where they came.
They had I can't remember the name of the ballroom. They had a crystal ballroom. There are pictures around town. People have them of things that took place at the Scarborough Hotel. But that was the first really full service, then luxury hotel. Got to have air conditioning, and it was just a wonderful place. So it grew from 150 rooms to 350 rooms by the time it was closed. Well, very quickly it grew to being a wonderful place and a center of activity for the community.
I love that. And because every great town needs a great place for people to stay when they come do business, right?
Right.
At what point did they go, oh wait, this needs a makeover, or this needs, because then I'm sure there was reconstruction of it through the years.
Okay, so yes, they built on, added on. There was a restaurant, there was I think barbershop. The lobby was supposed to be a grand place. In fact, there is a tapestry. There's a tapestry from the Hotel Scarborough on display currently at the Museum of the Southwest. As we're sitting here, I just learned this the other day. It's been in the Scarborough Foundation office for the last 5 or 6 years. But it's on display temporarily at the Museum of the Southwest. But it was a huge tapestry that was in the lobby of the Scarborough Hotel. Anyway, the hotel stayed there across the street. Now, across the street from what is now the Wyndham, what was the Hotel Scarborough, was another hotel called the Crawford Hotel. It was smaller, but it was directly across the street and on the site of the Bush Convention Center.
Right.
Okay, and it was destroyed. The Crawford Hotel was leveled in, I'm going to say, 1978, 79, because the Midland Center, built by the city, operated by the city, owned by the city, was on the site of the old Crawford Hotel. And I was telling somebody the other day, when they came in, the city said, "Well, we can use the Crawford Hotel," and they just scraped it. And so they just knocked it down, but they kept the basement. They kept the basement for the and the basement of the Crawford Hotel served as the basement for the Midland Center that was in place. So the Midland Center served as our community center for those people who remember it. They're at the corner of Main and Wall, on the northwest corner of Main and Wall. It served as our community meeting place from about 1980 until, I want to say, 2022. I think my years, but the Bush Convention Center opened sometime around COVID time here. That's a throwback to us all. But it was early 20s is when the Bush Convention Center is now in place there. So there was another hotel.
And if it needed it needed a makeover.
It did need a makeover.
Center, yes.
It did need a makeover.
That poor building, but it served a great purpose. Had no idea, though, it had a hotel on it before.
It had been a hotel, and so that gave way. But there had been two hotels. And again, people wanted to stay downtown. We didn't have the Crawford predated Cladesta Plaza and all that sort of thing. So anyway, that's when the Hotel Scarborough was built in 28, and in 1973, Clarence Scarver Jr. was chairman of the board of the First National Bank. Okay, the First National Bank was located at the corner on Wall Street, at the corner of Colorado and Wall. And the bank property is the one that's now Bank of America. That was the First National Bank. And he was chairman of the board of the First National, and they invested a tremendous amount in the community and wanted community development. They helped develop much of downtown over along Main Street, particularly the area, helped get the federal building where it is now, renovation, what was then renovation of Main Street from Highway 80, what was now Front Street, the federal building, Main Street, up to about Illinois Street, where the First United Methodist Church, or First Methodist Church, is located right now. So First National Bank was doing that. Mr. Scarver was the chairman of the board, and he said the Hotel Scarver. He was quoted in a paper at the last roundup. The last roundup of the Hotel Scarver was held on Friday, July 13th, 1973. And it was a celebration of this grand hotel that had served the community so well. And he said, it's time to make room for something new and better. Something modern. It'll be smaller. Instead, it'll be a smaller hotel, but it'll be more modern. It will serve the community better than what the Hotel Scarver is doing now. So he sold the hotel to the bank, and the bank developed and opened in 1975. Opened the Midland Hilton.
Yes.
So the Midland Hilton was a project of the F&B Development Corporation.
What's the F&B?
First National Bank.
Okay.
First National Bank of Midland, and it opened in 1975. Similar to the Hotel Scarver, the Hilton then in 1975 opened with one tower, and that was the tower. It opened with one tower right there at the corner of Lorraine and Wall, and my recollection is they knew on day one, maybe before day one, that it wasn't big enough. And by 1977, so they opened in 75, and in 77 they opened the second tower, the South Tower, and that's now those two towers are still in place there. But the plan was to replace the Hotel Scarver, have it knocked down, and replace it with what became the Hilton. And so that was basically, if my math is right, from 28 to 73 was 45 years that the Hotel Scarver was in place. And so
every 50 years,
you might want to think about what needs to happen as a consequence. And there were so many things built. Now I'm going to digress from hotels, but there were so many things built in that time frame. 20s, late 20s. A lot of things were built in Midland, but same thing around 1980. There were a lot of things built, a lot of office buildings. The Petroleum Museum I just mentioned was built about that time. I believe the Midland Community Theater was built in about that time frame too. The Midland Community Theater previously was located on South Garfield Street, just south of Wall. And there's a there's
Garfield, South.
So you know where Dennis the Menace Park is?
Yes.
Think about where Dennis the Menace Park is.
Okay.
Just to the west of Dennis the Menace Park was a building that housed the Midland Community Theater.
Really?
It was a cinder block building. I think it's a church right now.
Okay.
But
I think you're right.
And the church is about to. I think that church is about to move. I think they're about to move into a new facility somewhere. Anyway, so the Midland Community Theater moved its location out on Wadley, and in about that same time frame. And so there was a lot of things built that are 50 years old, and in 50 years you kind of got to take care of things. You got to
absolutely
fix things up, and
I'm sure back then, and you can maybe attest to this, because whenever there's growth, and there's because right now there's so much growth happening in Centennial Park, amazing. Wagner Noel, amazing. We have so many gems in our community that have been built over the past, say, 20 years, right? Going back to those 70s, at that time, was there the same questions that come up now, like, what if there's a bust? What if do we need this? Or was it, let's go, we need to grow?
It was motivated, not motivated, but it was a lot of the things that were undertaken. There were several office buildings downtown that were built and opened about 1980. And because there was what was called then a boom.
Okay, so
there was a boom
boom time
in
then?
1980, 1981. There was a boom. Looking back, history will reflect it was more of a boomlet. It was. It didn't last very long, and what followed was not very good.
Was it the mortgage crisis? Is that what followed that?
Well, that's on down the road.
Okay.
But, there was so much activity that some office buildings that were built. I mean, you'd already downtown. The First National Bank building went from 11 stories to 24.
Wow.
And so it was added on in that
Okay.
time frame. That was added on. The Faskin Center, what was then Midland National Bank's home and an office building, that was built in this same sort of time frame. The Centennial Bank building, not Centennial Bank building, it's the Centennial building. It was the Briarcroft Savings Building is what it was when it was built. It's the building that is immediately across the street, north and a little bit east of Centennial Park now, and across from the Bush Convention Center across Texas Street, about a 14-story building.
Okay.
Brown.
Next to City Hall?
It is south of City Hall.
Okay,
It occupies that half block immediately south of the current City Hall.
Okay.
And that was built in that time frame. What's now the Summit Building over Permian Resources located in the Summit Building. That was built in 1980.
Wow.
Independence Plaza at the corner of Illinois and Big Spring.
So things were popping up
built
left
in
and
that
right.
same time frame. It was built. There were a lot of things built in 1980 around what looks now as a pretty short economic expansion. A lot was done, and then as a community, we didn't build anything for like 30 years.
Really? Okay, give me a time. Give me
So that gets you to about
85?
Call it 2010.
Call it 85 to 2010?
Yeah, 1980, 80 and 81. It was very busy here. It was very busy here in 1980 and 81, and so you get 30 years later. We haven't built as a community. We haven't built there. There was Cladesta Plaza that opened and created a new vibrant commercial center that Clady started out there north, and it started to. So no longer were people just building downtown because all those buildings have been built downtown. So Clady went out there and built there at the corner of Big Spring and Wadley.
Yeah, you kind of took it a different direction.
A lot of people don't realize, but right there on the corner at Big Spring and Wadley, where there's the drive-in bank for Wells Fargo now. Yeah. It was a drive-in.
Really? Like
drive-in theater?
Drive-in theater?
Drive-in theater.
That's going to make me look at that area
My
different.
recollection was it was the Fiesta. It was the
Okay.
Fiesta drive-in, and the chief was still out on Highway 80, where there's still drive-in movies out there.
Right.
But there was a drive-in
Fiesta.
drive-in theater.
I love it.
At the corner there where Cladesta Plaza was, and that whole development that Clayton Williams and Modesto put in.
Did he pick? I'm just asking you a question you may not even know. But did he pick that area to be different, to go off and be separate from downtown?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it proved to be a success.
Yeah.
And but it changed things because previously all the commercial office space, the large community commercial office space was downtown.
Yeah.
So, but unlike Houston or Dallas, our quote suburban office space was only about 2 miles north.
Yes.
It wasn't in another town like in
the
North
Woodlands.
Dallas. No.
Yeah.
Or Frisco.
Or
right. Plano or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was the
Interesting.
beginning.
So you said 2010. So, and once again, we're sitting here today in Midland, Texas with Grant Billingsley talking history of Midland, because if you're a Midlander like me and you love where we live, it's good to know where we came from and where we're going and how we got to where we are today, right? Because as I just learned today, 30 years, no growth, nothing.
Well,
that's a big...
We grew, but not very fast.
But maybe got
It was-
Target.
We did. We got Target.
We got Target.
Midland, the Midland Park Mall was built in the. My recollection, Midland Park Mall was built in the late '70s. Is my recollection.
Okay.
And it was already in place, and so we had growth, but we didn't build any more significant office buildings, and we didn't build very many apartments.
Yes, that is true.
I mean, there was a period of time where there just were no apartments built, and then when this current economic expansion that we're in with shale came along, that's when there was just a floodgates opened in us building apartments, which is important for us, which has been very important for us to sustain this.
Like the loop, it's maybe some history on the loop. Because I remember Al would always tell me there wasn't a loop here. My apartment building, this is where it ended. So do you know when did the loop come to be? Was that? I'm
going to guess it was in the 80s.
Yeah,
it was in the 80s. It was in the 80s, and it started out as a divided. They built what were the service roads first, and then ultimately they built the main lanes. I don't remember the exact year that the loop was built, but it was already started. I lived out there. When I moved here, I lived out at the north end of Garfield Street, across from the college, and there was nothing out. In fact, I parked out on the curb on Garfield.
Oh, Garfield.
Yeah, when I arrived here, and so that's just kind of how it was.
So a lot of growth, a lot of change. 2010 comes around, and I feel like that's, and maybe you can tell me a little bit more, we did get a new airport, 1999, 98?
Is it the 90s?
90, late 90s, because when I first flew in here in 98, it was the old airport.
Right.
Not too long after, then we got the beautiful new one. So that was 99-ish. But then you fast forward to 2010. Is this when conversations started happening that, hey, we need, because I remember the conversation always being, we need to revitalize downtown Midland. And that was 98.
It's been a conversation. It's been in conversation for as long as I've been here. The downtown,
so 70s.
Downtown.
It was that way in the 70s?
And the thrust has been, and I'm out of my depth now on all the history because I'm not a historian and I can just remember. I don't remember the exact dates on when these things happened, but the vision has always been that downtown, the central business district, is the heart of a community. It's the economic heart. It's where people come together from time back past to still today. And so your downtown needs to be successful. Just like we as humans need our heart to be healthy, we need our downtown to be healthy. And there is the greatest concentration of property tax value in our community is downtown.
Really?
Now, that doesn't include necessarily the minerals that have now been there, because when I moved here, there wasn't any oil being produced in Midland County. There didn't back then. There didn't seem to think there was any oil in Midland County. It was all over in Ector County and on west. But
little did they know.
Things change.
Things change. Little thing called fracking. Is that what?
Yeah. But in terms of the commercial and to a lesser extent residential, but commercial property values, the core is still in downtown. That's the greatest concentration of commercial real estate value in our community.
What do you think we need here still? So you've seen so much growth over the years. You've seen things. I mean, we have just in the space where I know that you helped facilitate at Wagner Well, now behind that with the Behavioral Health Center, and that area is growing so much. You look at Centennial Park, we're now getting new hotels downtown. We're seeing growth. What do you think our community needs in the future for the next 50 years? Because if you think about it, we're now looking at the next 50 years.
You told me you weren't going to throw it.
Okay. That's just an opinion question.
Okay. So I would say that we need better schools, and we need expanded healthcare opportunities. Okay. Those are two cornerstones of any thriving community. And we have, our schools have struggled, and they need. We need our schools to be better. Our families need our schools to be better. The average age of our community has dropped so precipitously with this economic expansion driven by shale exploration that the same types of family, young, successful families, whether they're working in the oil field or in an office, doesn't matter. They're coming here and they're working, and they deserve the best schools they can have, because there are so many kids, so many children in our community. There are so many births taking place. Even now, there's so many births taking place. So, and along with schools goes healthcare, and you've got to be able to deliver the healthcare. And people like Roz Grover and all have led that battle for a long time, and led that mantra for us. But those are what we need. That's what we need, because that's what the community wants. Now, okay, beyond that, those are things that you kind of got to have. You know, the cornerstone. But when you look at what's going on, think about the construction that's just now unfolding at the Costco, which is going to create a whole new economic expansion of its own, commercial and retail economic expansion. Look right across the street to the development that Colin Sewell and his companies are putting in there. That's an enormous investment that complements what the Scarborough Sports Complex and all of that's taking place. And now with the creation of the Permian Basin Behavioral Health Hospital out north, out by the Wagner Noel. I was at a meeting just the other day. We were at a meeting, and we were sitting in the SEED building. The SEED building, SEED is CEED, stands for Center for Energy and Economic Diversification. And there were some people here with the University of Texas system, and we were talking about things going on out there with the Behavioral Health Hospital, with the Beacon development that is being promoted for another academic and healthcare centralized location development to serve both communities, as we need these things. But someone said, we're sitting out here at the SEED building now. We've got the UTPB engineering building. We've got Wagner Noel. Hospital's being built right behind us here. When was this being built? I said, this building that we're sitting in was built in 1986.
Was it really?
Yeah. So I said, it sat out here. It sat out here for 20 years, because in the Wagner Noel, the work started on the Wagner Noel in 2006, maybe late 2005. We'll call it 2006, just for round numbers. That's 20 years that the SEED building was out there just as a outpost for UTPB to start.
Was it smaller at that time? I don't remember it being that big, and the water fountain and everything.
No, that was pretty much the way it was built to begin with. Yeah,
I guess
and then
now,
it was just out there.
It was just out there by
and
itself.
Then the Wagner Noel was built. Then they built the engineering building, and now the Behavioral Health Hospital is being built on land not owned by UTPB or University of Texas system, but on private land that the Beacon is developing. So there's going to be a whole new development, and the whole vision for the Beacon development is a place for people to live, work, and play.
Maybe you could explain the Beacon, because I've heard the Beacon. He's like, wait a minute, you didn't tell me you were going to ask me that one either. What is the Beacon?
It's a vision. It's a vision for academic, healthcare, and commercial and residential development.
Okay, so like you said, live, work, play.
Right.
I love it.
Right.
And we've all been to towns that have seen that. Frisco area has many. I just got back from the Seattle area, the Redmond area, had exactly what you're talking about, the live, work, play.
Sure.
It's amazing, and that's what is envisioned for that area.
That's right. So
you can walk. So imagine this, you're living in this beautiful building, and you could walk to the Wagner Noel and watch is that what you're seeing?
Eventually.
I love it. Yeah. That's fantastic.
So.
This is great. I'm excited for that. And I know
Good.
This has got to be exciting for you, Grant, to see all this growth, because it's something that you have really lived for since you've been here in 75 is growth.
Well, I hope it's exciting for a lot of people, and that there will be so many new things, and as Costco and as the development that Colin is building on there, the development along 191 is just going to continue to develop. We want it to be high quality. We want it to serve people's needs. We want it to meet the needs of these young families. I was so Saturday evening we were at an event. I saw a young woman that I knew, and I said, I hope you never move from here, or I hope you want to stay here. And she goes, I don't think we're going to move. I said, we love this place now, and they've been here for 6 years, and that's what we need. Is we want. It's not. We don't have trees and hills and water. We got great sky. We got some pretty good weather. I mean, all things considered.
Yes.
And we've got some really pretty good weather. It's just not real pretty sometimes. And so you got to get through that. And it's the people that make it.
Absolutely. 100%. Could not agree with you more. I'm going to throw one more fun question at you, and I promise that'll be it. I want you to tell me a fun fact about Midland that maybe people don't know, because we know the baby Jessica well. We know, if you were listening from around the world right now, we know that story. We know 2 presidents have come from here. What other fun fact can you give us?
Well, I mean, those are 2 great things. The Jessica thing we talked about in episode 88.
Episode 88, Grant Billingsley, go watch it. It's a great episode as well.
We talked about that. But I think things that really make Midland stand out are like the Bushes and their legacy here. Jessica, Jim Hall. Jim Hall, an innovator, creator, successful race car designer, builder, racer, has an incredible history that is documented at the Petroleum Museum and Hall of Fame. So people, to understand the innovation that he brought to racing was just, it's not been documented well enough in history to my way, but it is something very special in Midland. Right. Polo is underappreciated in Midland, and it has a deep history here going back to the 20s and before, where people were playing polo in this community, and they're still playing polo now. And so that is an aspect of how things are different.
Go to Shuckers, the big it's a big fundraising event that Bynum holds every other year. If you've never seen a polo, which I had never seen polo before, just go
to Facebook and look at Midland Polo.
Midland Polo. There you go.
I would also throw in Judy Rankin.
And she was next. She was next.
Okay, yes.
Next on my list is Judy Rankin, who was an absolute world famous sports figure and such a delightful person and woman and community leader. And we are blessed as a community to have her here. She and her past husband, Yippee, who passed away a few years ago, are just great citizens. So those are just some of the really sort of unique things about Midland. There are a lot of times, we go to events and everybody says, "Art, there's no town like this. There's no town like this." Well, that's probably true. But there's a lot of uniqueness about Midland, a lot of history here, and we're blessed to have it and still have the entrepreneurs that make these things happen.
I could not agree more. And people that poured into our community like you over the years that really pushed for new things to be built and for growth and for just for towns to evolve. And so we appreciate all the hard work that you put in through the years. I know he's going to say, no, don't say this, but I really do appreciate you, Grant. Sure. You've done so many beautiful things. I want to shout out 2 things that you and I talked about before we came on, that if you love the history of Midland and you want to read more about the history, one of our friends, Jimmy Patterson, wrote a great book. You shouted out in our last podcast, History of Character. Mm-hmm. And then this other one you were telling me about is really good.
Land of the High Sky. Land of the High Sky. It's hard to find, but they have it at the library. It's just a great short read about the start of Midland, from even before this railroad car was pushed off to the siding. It goes back to when this was Indian territory, and it was really wild out here. And so it's a good thing doesn't take long to read. There's a lot of great stories.
Great. So check those 2 books out. One thing that I really have seen as a theme here today, Grant, is that things being built in our community through the years, whether it was back in the 1800s to today to 2025, happened because groups of people came together. And And it just wasn't done by one person, right?
Nope.
It wasn't just done by two people. I mean, it was groups of people. And so I think that is something beautiful that I've learned from you is the way that people work together, then that's when true growth can happen.
That's the way it works.
Yes, I love that. Okay, last question. Just one more. How many presidents have you met? You mentioned Ford. I was just thinking, what's a fun fact about Grant? How many presidents have you met here in Midland, Texas?
I mean, I was blessed to meet and get at least meet both Bushes. Gerald Ford. I don't recall there being another president that I was here that I saw, but a lot of them come through here.
Right.
Most everybody's come through here at one time or another, just
right.
because of the energy, and it's a very political. Midland has always been a political leader.
Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, they came through here?
Well, Ronald Reagan, of course.
Bill Clinton?
Ronald Reagan and Ernest Angelo Jr. was very close to Ronald Reagan and the whole thing that Ronald Reagan brought from our country. So, yeah, there have been a lot of presidents, but not me.
Okay. Well, when you mentioned Ford, I was like, I bet he's met a ton of presidents. He knows them all.
No.
Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge today. I appreciate it. Is there anything, Grant, in closing, that you really want people of West Texas, especially our younger generation, to know about this great community that both you and I have chose to raise our families in, and I know thousands of others, because we love it for all the beauty that is there, because, you know, you grow where you are planted. And I feel like so many people here in West Texas have done that so beautifully. Is there anything else you want them to know that are maybe just now getting planted here?
The only thing I would say, and this is just my older view of the world now, is that civility and civil discourse is what leads to positive things happening. And we don't have a whole lot of that now from time to time, even in our own community. And when you want to have something, when you want to take big steps and make good things happen, and good things are in the eye of the beholder. What I think is best or needed for the community isn't what someone else. But they're good things that serve a lot of people. And you do that by being able to work together and avoid division and a lack of civility. And it takes consensus, and it takes that sort of leadership to get us there, and that's what will be required for us to get education where we need it, for us to take healthcare where we want it to be, and those sorts of things. So civility and consensus will help us get to where I think people want this community to be.
I love that. That is so important. Drop mic. He just said it best right there, because that is, and that's what we all want, is to have everyone come together. And it doesn't always mean that you have to agree with the person sitting across from you, but you can get along and you can appreciate where they're coming from and respect where they're coming from. So I love that. I've so enjoyed this time. Thank you. I appreciate you being here today, Grant. Sure. As always, you are just a plethora of great information and have a great way of looking at life and our great community. So I appreciate all you've done and for you sharing today. Check out those books that we talked about. Get involved in your community. Go to those places we mentioned today. If you're new to the area, go to the Museum of the Southwest. Go to the Wagner Noel. Go to the Petroleum Museum. Go see these amazing places and support your community, because the more you do, the more you will love it as much as we do. And it just takes you really just going out there and seeing the beauty of West Texas. So thank you, Grant.
Thank you.
Tell
Thanks
friends
for having
and
me.
hello.
That was fun.
And look forward to seeing you next time, and enjoy hitting them on the golf course.
Hope
Hit them straight and make birdies. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you. Please share this with someone that is maybe new to West Texas. We've talked about some amazing things here and where West Texas has come from, where it's going, and where we're at right now. And we just hope that each and every one of you that is moving here loves it. I always say love where you live. And how do you do that? You support local and you get out and enjoy these great things that we have available in our community. Thank you again, Grant Billingsley, a longtime Midlander. I'm going to call him historian. He's not, but I'm going to say I appreciate it, because his knowledge of dates was impressive today. I can barely remember what I did yesterday at 12:20 or what the day is. But I was so impressed with that, and I appreciate you sharing this with someone that you love, and our sponsors. Big shout out to Albany Midland Hotel, Rig ID Workwear, Kevin Foreman of Foreman Financial, also Thin FR and Midland Cap Company. We appreciate you supporting not only those local businesses, but all local businesses, because local is where it's at. And don't forget my motto, to dream big, believe, and never give up. Thanks again for your time. You make it a great day.